Welcome to Securing the Future podcast with your hosts Jesse Metters and Ramin Lamay, where we discuss the latest cutting-edge technologies and how they are affecting the security industry. Join us as we explore the latest advancements and discuss how these innovations are shaping the future of security. With Jesse, a skilled recruiter, and Ramin, a seasoned security leader, this is the show where industry expertise meets in-depth discussions.
We are excited for this episode of Securing the Future podcast. We are going to be talking all about building a career in cybersecurity, and definitely a topic near and dear to my heart. And we are really excited about our special guest. We have Yuri Diogenes on the show today, who is the author of many books, but one specifically, Building a Career in Cybersecurity. And I have it right here, and I just finished it, and it's awesome. So welcome, Ramin, Yuri, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Yeah, we're super excited to have Yuri on to give us more of an insider perspective, right? So super exciting. I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but thank you. Appreciate you being on, Yuri. And excited to get to know you more.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. This is a great topic, and Jesse is someone that I know for more than 10 years now, actually, within the cybersecurity field. So it's a great pleasure to be talking to you again, my friend.
It is. Yeah. So the story is Yuri and I know each other. I helped him into his degree program at Utica College back when I was doing college recruiting for cybersecurity degrees. And we've kept in touch, saw each other at a couple of Black Hat conferences, and he's got quite a resume. I'm going to try to do justice on a quick intro, and then Yuri will dive in. But he's currently the principal program manager at Microsoft. He actually handles the Microsoft Defender product. I think you're leading like a decent sized team. It's like globally distributed. He's got his master's degree from Utica College in cybersecurity and currently pursuing his PhD in cybersecurity. Written over 31 different books. And he's originally from Brazil, so he's written books in Portuguese and in English. He's a professor at EC Council University and somehow finds time with his wife and kids. Welcome, Yuri. That's literally what I wrote down.
Yeah, that's very accurate, actually.
Is it?
Wow. 2 podcasts. I just heard of one yesterday, and you told me the episode count. Wow.
Yeah, there is another one, Defender for Cloud in the Field, the one that I record for Microsoft. That one is also at least 2 episodes a month.
Yeah. For people that don't know what a principal program manager at Microsoft does, out of curiosity, I'd love to just get your elevator pitch and understand, what do? What's your daily experience? How are you interacting with security today? Then obviously we want to hear about the book as well.
Yeah, so the job title is actually Principal PM Manager because I manage a team of PM, and this team is distributed across the globe. The intent of our team is to really work with customers, understand their needs, and basically help them to onboard our cloud security posture management platforms, which is called Defender for Cloud, our CNAPP solution, basically. Work closely with customers, understand their needs, understand if needs to change anything in the product, so we get the feedback and we improve the product. We have a direct channel with the developers, so we can submit feature requests and things like that. With agile development, we are working sprints, so the changes are very rapidly. It's not like the old days that you have, for you to see change, you have to wait the entire year for the new version. We release things really fast in the cloud. Wow. So a lot of adjustments that needs to be done can be done probably in the next semester or next quarter. It depends on the type of adjustment. But that's the intent, right? Is to drive adoption and make sure that the customer has a great experience with the product. That's about the product, right? From the cybersecurity standpoint, as we are working to elevate the security posture of our customers, our PMs, they need to know foundational aspects and advanced aspects about cybersecurity so they can have a conversation and understand the customer needs and how the product will fulfill that solution, basically. So it's not only about product management and understand how the product can evolve and get better, but also the cybersecurity scenarios that we are going to fulfill. What are threat actors doing? What are the major issues that are happening in different workloads in the cloud? How threat actors are taking advantage of vulnerabilities. So we need to understand all that.
So you got to be SMEs, right? Almost subject matter experts in cybersecurity,
Exactly.
and then build a product to meet those use cases that
That's
demand
correct.
where it's going.
Yeah. So you have to have
That
both
sounds,
skills. You have to have the cybersecurity skills
yeah.
and the product management skills.
It's interesting because I deploy your product. I help clients deploy Defender. I don't know if you work at all with Sentinel, their MDM in tune. So I'm starting to get very familiar with their product offering, how it's being implemented in different companies. Getting a sense of
we are very
your
well
experience.
segmented. Well, very well segmented team. So, and Defender, that's the challenge, right? Because the Defender is such a big family. We work with Defender for Cloud. There are other Defenders, right? Defender for Cloud is one platform of products. Sentinel is our SIEM solution, which is driven by a different team.
Yeah. I even have Defender on my computer, right? You can deploy it through.
That's the Defender for endpoint.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I love being involved with cybersecurity technologies and vendors and their direction too. And it's interesting because you bring together less tools when you have your Office 365 customer and you're going to use Defender for email, for endpoints. It's easier for smaller companies, less management, less hands-on. So
Absolutely.
it's something I see a lot out there. And like, I recommend products like that where you can simplify how many
The whole
tools
idea is the consolidation of tools saves times and saves money. That's the whole thing.
And then when I think about that, then I think about the bigger players, right? Like the Microsoft, the CrowdStrike. They're buying a lot of smart companies with a lot of good ideas and bringing those products that are still very early and bringing it into their product. So they're constantly investing and like evolving it. Well, you're not going to get that everywhere either, right? So as you partner with your security providers, right? These are the people that help protect your environment. They're very important to have at the table to give that feedback to and get the product that you need that serves your use case. So important.
Yeah, really cool what you do, Yuri. And Yuri has really a passion to help the next generation as well as kind of target the current, maybe younger mid-career professional. And so this book, I felt like, and I'm really excited to dive into it a little bit, Yuri. It really touched on almost every audience, which I think you mentioned to me earlier when we were talking. That was the focal point. It was like, let's write a book that really kind of hits from A to Z. Anybody who at any stage wants to build a career in cybersecurity, not just get a job, but like build a long-term career. That's kind of what resonated with me. It was like everything that you need to know about getting in the field, the skills, determining what role, and we'll obviously dive into the different chapters and have you kind of walk us through it, Yuri. But yeah, I really enjoyed the book. And from being a recruiter and just talking with so many different folks at different levels in cybersecurity that I've recruited in the past, as well as coming from education, it was like very refreshing. You hit on so many key things that are important. So let's dive into the book. Let's hear a little bit about it. I guess the first thing I always like to ask any author is like, what is it that inspired you to write this book?
Well, I received so many emails, questions over the years. I've been working with cyber since 2006, basically, and teaching classes, working at the university, and writing books. I always receive email. Where should I start? What should I do? Where should I go? Right. So these questions were always coming up, and I was answering these questions via email. I started actually creating a template to just copy and paste the same answers because it was all the time the same questions. And over the years, I was like, well, I need to take the time to write a book that establishes the entire roadmap from ground zero, basically, to where to start, right? So that was the whole motivation. It's just a real demand from my students and from people that just send email to me and ask, how do I start? Where should I go? There are so many cybersecurity jobs. I don't know which one fits what I want. And even ask me a question, what should I do? I mean, I don't know what you should do. I don't even know you. I need more information about that. So that's why the book also has a lot of reflection and self-assessment, because at the end of the day, only you will know where you should go. You need data to analyze and to understand the options, but at the end of the day, it's your decision, right? So accountability is very important. That's why there are so many reflections and questions to ask yourself and assessments in the book.
Yeah, yeah, really like that part. And the structure is so easy to follow because you have like links in there with different resources so you can go deeper. You cover like a lot of very specifics and a nice summary at the end of every single book. So like it really reinforces, you can tell you're a teacher, right, at heart, because like the way you teach, it's almost like a textbook meets, because you have a lot of great stories. Like I really enjoyed the mix of all of that into it. It really brings your personality into the book too. So I feel like, the first kind of couple chapters really talk about understanding cybersecurity, right? And understanding like the different functions. Can you maybe high level walk folks through like what would they be expecting as they get into these first couple of chapters, and what was kind of the intent here?
Yeah, so the first chapter is basically a navigation through the cybersecurity universe, right? And understanding what it is. People keep talking about this gap that exists in cybersecurity, and the gap is there. The reports coming from different studies. ISC Square is one that always releasing studies about the cybersecurity gap year over year, and we see that this gap is there. So what we talk about the options available in the market, and then we go right to the perception that in order for you to get that, you need a plan. So you really need to establish this plan. You need to understand what you need to do in order to move forward, right? So what are the jobs available? What skills you need? And when it comes to skills, not only the technical skills, but the soft skills as well. Very important. And I've been hiring over the years. And as I told you in a side conversation many times, we don't hire the best technical person just because the soft skill is so bad, and people don't realize that. They think that all they need to do is respond a technical question that will be enough, but it's a mix. And nowadays, with the amount of information we have, it's really easy to train someone technically. I can ramp up someone in 2-3 months in one subject, and that person will continue to learn on the job. But the soft skills is something that is more personal. Either you have, or you're going to spend way more time, because you don't change someone's personality or approach to solve problems overnight. It's a continuous process, right? So it takes way more time to shape the soft skills rather than shape the technical skills. So if someone is ready from the soft skill perspective, wow, this person really impressed in the interview process, right? So that's basically an overview of chapter 1. Chapter 2 goes more in details about the plan. Okay, now you understand. Now let's establish a plan and do a self-assessment. You need to understand what are your current skills, because we will compare with different cybersecurity roles what some roles need in terms of technical skills, and then you're going to compare with the skills that you have, and then you're going to see the gap, and then you're going to invest time to fulfill those gaps. And one of the things that I cover is using certifications to fulfill those gaps, because the advantage of the certification is that it gives you a learning roadmap. So it's not only about achieving the certification at the end, but it's about studying the topics, learning. I always say this is something that I bring from sports perspective. It's not about the destination, it's about what you become to get there, right? And I use this mindset in competitions, in everything, because even if I don't win, I'm not the same person when I start preparing for that competition. I'm much better.
Yeah.
I gain more things. The same thing, if you go to a certification and you fail on the first attempt, you're still better than you were when you start studying, because you learn a lot of things. So a lot of people just focus on the results. They don't focus on how they become before they get there, right?
You're a very motivated guy as well, and that goes into your message, right? The way, just how you speak to it, you can hear the passion. And I almost think about you like a coach as you write this, right? You're writing it not as like a manager or even leader, more of like a sport coach, which is, I learned yesterday, you do a sport podcast, right? So you're bringing that mindset into how you see the challenges ahead, the opportunities, and try to connect the dots for people. And you're motivated in that, right? So you're not going to sit around and say, what if? You're going to give real life examples of what you've even gone through. And I think that's very relatable, right? Like, I'm very much a motivated guy too, so like I love listening to podcasts that boost me up, right? And I feel good and I exercise. So that's a good way to connect with people. I like
Yeah, this is
your
thank you very much for the
storytelling.
observation. This is something that, at least at Microsoft, one of our core attributes as a manager is to be a coach. We need to coach our directs. So as when we start the manager role, we have trainings, and one of the pillars of the training is coaching. So we need is not the old style manager, is really coaching and open their mind on how to unleash their full potential, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, you really hit on the mindset throughout the whole book of what it takes to be successful, not only just to get started, but to make it all the way through a career successfully. And you hit on that a lot. I'm probably giving away a little too much of the book here, but yeah, I love that part, how you really hit on the mindset, because mindset's everything in all things that we pursue in our life. If you don't have the right mindset, you're going to fail, right? You have to come in thinking the right way. And that's so key. And the soft skills, I totally agree with you. I've had many interviews with clients where we had a more technical candidate and a candidate that had some of the technical, but was really strong in the soft skills. And many times in those scenarios, the person with the stronger soft skills was the one who ended up getting the job. So I have seen that scenario played out as well. I totally agree with you.
No, absolutely. And I think is in life in general is about perspective. If you start looking at a problem and you continue say that you're not going to be able to resolve that, you are so into that mindset of not being able to resolve that you stop thinking about the solution, right? Now, if you
You
just
create
change,
barriers.
yeah, if you just change to say, how can I fix that? How can I resolve that? You're going to be more creative. You're going to start to looking at your alternatives, because now you see that as a challenge and not as a problem, right? That's where jiu-jitsu comes into play, because when you are in some positions like, I'm done. Now you look at how you're going to get out of that, right? It's a troubleshooting. You are in troubleshooting mode all the time.
You're troubleshooting from being on your back on a mat. Like,
Yeah.
you can't get
How
lower
can I
than that,
escape?
right? So,
Yeah. How can I
so you
escape this choke?
you remove barriers, right? Like, to me, that's very present mindset too, right? You're not thinking about all the what ifs. You're thinking, here's my problem, and you're looking, what are all my options? And then you're trying to make good decisions based on that and keep that, as you talked about, you guys do a lot of frequent cycle releases. So you're keeping that feedback loop very tight, right? Just to make sure that you're going in the right direction and applying the right logic.
And the other
That's
thing
awesome.
too, is that people need to start or to stop, get to that point where once they feel uncomfortable, they freeze. You actually, and I think I wrote this phrase in the book, you need to be comfortable to be uncomfortable. You have to understand that you're going to be uncomfortable many times. You're going to be in situations that you are not the expert, but you still have to deliver the message. You're gonna be in situations that you are learning as you go, and all those things are part of your daily work in cybersecurity. It's impossible for you to know everything, so you need to be uncomfortable that you don't know, and that's just it is what it is.
And
So
that's okay too, right? It's okay not
it's
to know.
okay. Absolutely okay. Mainly when you work in team. That's why one of the soft skills is how you work in team collaboration, how you collaborate with others, how you leverage others people's knowledge. Because when you work in a large organization, you are never alone. You work as part of a team. So you have to leverage everyone's knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that I thought was really good is how you dug into the hands-on aspect of getting prepared to move into cybersecurity, and like what areas that you really need to focus on learning. Because I think a lot of people I talk to who are at the entry level, as an example, and they're like, how do I get my foot in the door? I've gotten this degree. I maybe went through a couple of my CompTIA certifications. How do I get experience? And you did talk about building a lab and then the value of networking. I wanted to have you just briefly talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, the lab is important for you to gain that hands-on experience, because many times during the study process for certification are very theoretical. Sometimes you don't do any labs. but I provide some examples of labs that you can build in Azure. 30 days free trial of an Azure subscription, and you can do so many things in 30 days as long as you have a good schedule and you have the discipline to do the things every day. Because I've seen people fail because they go to Azure, they fire a free trial of 30 days, they deploy some resources, and then they come back 15 days later. Well, you're wasting free time, right? You have
Yeah.
to do something every single day. That I always
Yeah.
say, if you are going to use a trial subscription, have a plan even before you subscribe. Have a plan of what you're going to accomplish every single day, because those are free resources for you. So make sure that you take advantage of that. So that's how you really build that hands-on practice. Okay. And the networking is super important because there are so many volunteer type of job available where you can say, hey, there is this local conference going on here. Can I volunteer myself to work at the table and just meet people and watch the
Yes.
conference for free and do things? You start to know people. That's how I got my job as professor at EC Constant University, because I was networking at the Rocket Halted in 2014 and walking through the booths, and I walked to the EC Constant University booth, and the dean was there, and we started talking. And then that was how it happens, right? So you never really know what you can do when you start networking. You open the doors for a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
fascinating the way you describe building your technical skills. And I think you do a very good job of helping guide people towards pick a path early in their career, because there are different profiles as you describe in the book. And you do a great job of elaborating on profiles, right? So someone can read your book and understand, well, I want to be a pen tester, or I want to be a security developer, right? Or a developer that writes secure code, and you get kind of like a trajectory, right, that you recommend, and you help with technical skills. And what I think was even more important, you brought up in our offline conversation, was you brought like branding skills too. Don't just work on technical skills, look at yourself as a brand. And I took that away yesterday and saying, I am a brand. I do my own business right now. And I never felt like I was a brand like this when I worked at a corporate job. Now that I'm a one man team, I am a brand. Every time I get on the phone with someone, it could be an opportunity. And I need to work on being very present mindset, really, kind of like your example, and think
Yeah,
about how do I want to show up?
and and not only when you own a company. That's the thing that I talk in the book that Jesse also mentioned on our offline conversations. You are building your brand even if you work for a big tech. Even it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's your brand. Your employer is actually your customer because you are providing your service to that employer. So if you provide a great quality service, you're gonna get a good reward at the end. You're gonna grow in your career. So when you start seeing your employer as actually your customer and that you need to do your best serve for that customer, I mean, it changes everything.
And imagine adding or multiplying networking into that, that possibility. And then you're now putting yourself in front of opportunities that you might not have been open to by just going about it that way. I only started, like I mentioned, looking at it recently that way, but that really resonates with me because networking is so important. But opportunities show up that way. And if you're not paying
Yeah.
attention, if you just think this is something I don't need to do, you're not getting that full exposure.
Yeah, and
Imagine showing up.
I would say this nowadays. I mean, with COVID, a lot of people got really used to online meetings and everything, which is great. It opened up a lot of other opportunities, of course. But now that we are back in normal, get out, go to physical conference, be present, shake hands, look in the eye. I mean, there is nothing like that presence for you to be there and talk to someone in person. It You can do just so much more when you are in person.
Yeah. No, I agree with you completely. And speaking of in person, that kind of the next thing that you dive into was interviewing. And that's always a little scary for many folks, right? And no matter, and I think this was what was nice about the interviewing chapter is you touch on not only beginning your career, but like if you're already in the field, how do you interview as you go to that next level? So talk to us a little bit about kind of your mindset on interviewing and how you talk about that in the book. Like this is really where you're getting into the process of getting employment.
Yeah, so the interview is interesting because one of the main mistakes that I see interview many times is that someone apply for the position, and when you start talking to that person doesn't even know what the job is about. In other words, they never read the job description deeply, the prereqs. They just look at the title and they will like, oh, this is a cool title, right? But so first of all, even before apply, make sure that you fully read the job description, the requirements, and be sincere with yourself. Do you have those requirements? It is really the level that you need? Because if you are in an entry level job and you apply for a senior position, guess what? Most likely you're not going to get that position. No, but so you need to be sincere. And people say, you but you also want to increase the likelihood that you are going to pass through the first triage. And usually the first triage is done by the recruiter that look at their resume. So there is not really an interview process. It's a filter that you need to do. Sometimes we receive 500 applicants for one position. We cannot interview 500. So we need to eliminate some that we, just by looking at the resume and the previous experience, we know will not make the cut. So make sure that when you are applying for a position that you craft your resume the way it is supposed to be, look at the requirements, see if you have experience on those things, and look at the level. Once you're there and you pass through this initial triage, then you're going to go for the interview loop. And that's where there's a lot of things that can going on, right? And nowadays, most of the interviews are happening online via Zoom, Teams, whatever. You have to be present on that interview. You cannot multitask. You need to be with your camera on. You need to be looking at the person that is interviewing you. You need to be enthusiastic about things, be in a professional location, because it seems basic, but you will not believe the backgrounds that I've seen in the past when people were in interview process. I was like, wow, really? It's very odd, but just be present, because the first impression is very important, right? That impact
Exactly.
that you make with that first impression is so important, right? If you are in a bad mood, or you're not talking loud enough, you're not expressing yourself. And I know that there is a lot of language barriers many times. Sometimes English is not your first language, just like it's not mine. But you have to at least show enthusiasm. And you need to show that you are into that interview and you are really looking forward to go through that process. That's things that cover, but I give some example of types of questions that can be asked, because I think it's very important, right? There are scenarios based questions that the interviewer has come up with a scenario and ask you to evaluate how you are going to proceed to resolve that scenario. So it's more like a troubleshooting type of scenario that you're going to give an answer, and then probably the interviewer have a follow-up answer based on what you respond. And there are questions where the interviewer asks the opposite, say, hey, tell me about a scenario where you live this and that. And then you have to tell a story. And here is also where people, they try to make up stories. So don't do that. Because if you make up a story, oh, I've done this and that, the interviewer will make follow-up questions and will identify if that scenario is made up or not. So be sincere. Is much better to say, I never really lived this scenario. Can you give me another one? So be sincere, be transparent, be vulnerable. That's very important.
Yeah, totally agree. I've seen it. I've seen that too, Yuri. I think just basic professionalism too. Unless you're interviewing for a video game company, then you might be able to get away with it. But other than that, yeah, put on something nice. Make sure you don't have a weird background, right? Like the game of video interviewing is a little different, right? We don't get to have that body language as easily determined. So make sure you're in a position where the interviewer can kind of see your body language, right? And you can show that enthusiasm, and it's clear, and there's no like loud dog barking in the background or messy laundry in the background, right? Like stuff like that matters. I'm sure you've seen it all, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah. No, but you're absolutely right. And this is part of the first impression that I said.
Exactly.
It's interesting the way you're summarizing that. That to me is more of a soft skill, right? So just connecting that back. Just like your other examples, you're bringing presentness back in here. Not to be the psychologist, but like I love that. Like To me, being mindful, have a practice, it's almost like stuff that I've heard in an interview book too, right? I feel like you have that expertise as well from your exposure to how many times you've interviewed. I've interviewed a ton in my career as well. And it's, fascinating that, it's 101, right? It's the psychology of first impressions. It's not even a subject matter expertise point about how you show up. It's about be intentional about how you show up. And I love how you bring it up. Like I said, you say it like a coach. That's how I see it. The message, I get it like a coach. You're not hard on me. You're not telling me my approach is wrong. You're like, here's how I would go about it. Your track record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is exactly the intent, is to make people think. And this is also something that is very common in the academia. Every time that I ask questions from my PhD professor, he asks me the question back to me in a different way. And I'm like, oh, I have to reflect about that. So there is not even one time that I ask him a question that he actually give me a straight answer. It's always a question back to me reflecting. And some people don't like that. Some people, they want you to tell the answer. But you should make people reflect about the answer. Because that's how they learn, that's how they stretch themselves. That's a big difference that I see, for example, in a junior PM and a senior PM. They reflect on what you are asking and they come up with the solution. Where the junior PM, they want the step by step on how to get there. In a senior, you're not going to get this step by step. It's more blurry. You have to be creative in bringing the solution to me, right?
I love calling that, we talked about it last episode too, it's critical thinking skills. Something that ChatGPT or no other substitute can do for a person. Bringing your judgment, bringing your authentic self to the situation to solve a problem. And can you do that? Sometimes that's hard. It's hard to look at problems that way.
That's why I'm not too concerned about AI taking out jobs. I think it will take some jobs that are more mechanical or step by step, but decision makers, leadership position, critical thinking, those things require emotional thinking, emotional intelligence. And that's where we as a human, we have a huge advantage.
I totally agree. Totally agree. And that, I guess kind of next is like once you're in a role, whether that be moved up into a different role, which, there's a lot of different directions you can go. You talk a lot about navigating the challenges and how to grow once you're in the career. And I thought that it was fascinating, even just like you take people through different forks in the road of their life. Like, okay, you really have enjoyed this role, but you want to go in this direction. What are some of the decision trees that you need to make? And so, talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, you have such a great background yourself. You've functioned in so many different roles in cybersecurity. And I think you were able to bring that like high level perspective into this book. Talk to us a little bit about what we know, kind of what's the key focus here in navigating your career.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I create that decision tree is because a lot of people over the years that I talk with, they had a perception that they only see progress in their career if they are getting promoted almost every year. And it doesn't work that way. For you to get promoted, it depends on the level. It takes time and more time. It's really easy to get promoted year over year when you are in junior level and you start climbing. You go to senior principal and continue to grow. It takes time for you to be exposed to all scenarios that will prove that you have those skills. So maybe in 1 year was not enough for you to prove yourself in all the scenarios. So you have to navigate for another year. So people sometimes they're like, oh, I want to go to another job. I want to do something else because I'm stuck here. Are you really stuck? So you have to reflect on that and understand that sometimes if you're not happy, you may have to move laterally. When I say move laterally to another position, so you're going to have the same salary, same compensation, but you're going to do something different. Something that right now for you, you are more passionate about. And that's progress. You should never measure progress only financially speaking. It's a package. How's your work-life balance going on with this job? Because it doesn't matter if you are making a lot of money and you have no time for your family, right? So you have to analyze the entire package. And that's how you evaluate if you're making progress in your career. And sometimes those decisions means that you, instead of going up, you go sideways to then get up. So it's very strategic. Every single move needs to be strategic because you have to take in consideration all those parameters: work-life balance, opportunities to grow, stretching yourself by learning new things. Because if you stay too long in a position and feel comfortable, that's dangerous to you, because now you're not growing, you're not learning. If you are comfortable, you are definitely not learning, because every time that you are comfortable and things are extremely easy for you and you are the smarter guy in the room, that's a problem, because now you're not stretching yourself, you're not challenging yourself anymore. So you have to think about, okay, I need to move on because I'm very limited here. It's great, I love it, but I want to continue to grow and I need to take a new challenge.
Yeah.
And
You also
Yuri,
talk
I
about
would
health.
say,
Oh, sorry. Ramin, go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, Yuri, I almost want to say I'm guilty of that, coach, right? So starting, I told you this yesterday, just trying to be authentic. When I got into cybersecurity almost like 20 years ago, I wanted to make more money. And I did exactly what you described. So I kept growing in roles, finding myself in opportunities of growth. And I even remember picking between security and storage as my career path. And they were both tied to the immediate next financial gain that I can make being a specialist versus kind of more of a generalist technologist at the time in my career. And then I climbed. I started climbing. I started finding opportunities. Things were clicking, and I was getting to the next promotion, next promotion. And I drove my bosses crazy because I would always show up. They would always tell me, "You met the objective. We did what we needed to, but you drove everyone crazy, and you keep bothering me for a promotion." But I think that's
Look,
because I'm a
Rami,
millennial too.
just let me just say that what you've done is not that it's wrong. It's because at that time in your life, it was applicable. And that's something that I tell in the book too. Are you in the time of your life that you can afford to work 24/7? You don't have family. Maybe you are young. You are in the beginning of your career. So you can afford those things. So it's not that it's wrong. You have to evaluate your moment. Okay, this is the moment for me to really push hard and I'm going to work like crazy. Just be careful, because when you do that, you tend to burn out faster. So you just be mindful about that too.
Well,
Bring
great
that
on
up.
that, because the way you
Sorry.
interact with other people, you're thinking yourself. Like I remember I had a moment, and I call it like a growth moment, where I stopped thinking just about me. I started thinking like a team and started treating others as part of what I'm a part of versus what I get out of it. And it goes towards some of the growth stuff you've talked about. And those are really good lessons, right? I went through that experience. I did the lateral movement that you brought up. It's because I challenged myself to learn something new instead of thinking it's all about the money at that point in my career, right? I still wanted to have financial opportunities, but I moved lateral to learn something new, take on a different challenge. I
Yeah.
went from security to cloud, and then it blew my mind how these two things really actually tie together. And the more influence I can have in a transformation strategy, the more secure I can make it. I can try to be that kind of, and I don't know if I would call that a security expert anymore. I don't know if I would call it a cloud expert. But it's someone that's more just trying to do something different and interesting, right? And
Mm-hmm.
grow and learn as you stumble your way from step one to whatever. But you gotta be present for those opportunities, because you don't know what's in front of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jesse.
No, it's okay. I was wanting Yuri to bring, he has such a great story about this, because you were heavily in security operations for a while, Yuri, right? And I think there was a point where you really started to burn out and gain like a lot of weight. And then what happened? You talk about it a little bit in the book, but it's such an inspiring story. And it's so important for, I think, folks that are really motivated to be careful not to burn out and not to overdo it. You want to talk a little bit about that? I think it's such a great
Yeah,
story.
sure. Because at that time I was a sports escalation engineer for our product called ISO Server, which was our firewall, and then evolved to Forefront Threat Management Gateway in the next version. And I was working the second shift here
Ooh.
in Irving, Texas. And second shift means I was starting at work around 2 p.m. and I was supposed to leave at 9. But I never left at night, because many times we were receiving the handover from Europe, from customers in Europe were escalating to us because they were leaving for the day, escalate to us. So we will leave to 11 p.m. And I built a habit of leaving there and stop by McDonald's and eat junk food every day. And I was focused on my career and do the best. I really speed up my career on those years working in doing this type of work. But I gained 100 pounds. I was obese. I was having serious health problems. For example, I couldn't really walk because my knee was locking because of early arthritis that I basically developed because of my weight. So every 3 months, I
Wow.
had to go to the doctor just to get the injection on my knees to increase the fluid so I could walk properly. It was that bad. And the wake up call was really when my youngest daughter was born in 2008, and 2 years later she was running around 2010, and I couldn't pick up her. I couldn't really catch up with her. If I just sit on the floor, for me to stand up, it was like difficult. I got tired, hurt, my whole body was in pain. And I was like, I have to change that. And that's when I met a coach friend of mine, Greg McCoy. He is a bodybuilder coach. And basically, we started working on this change. And I already went on day one. I think it was October 2011 that we met and established a plan and say, hey, I want to compete in a bodybuilding competition. So let's remove this 100 pounds of fat. Let's work in a long term. So I was very patient to do the competition. I trained really hard for 3 years. And then in 2014, I competed for the first time. So that's really changed my whole lifestyle and work style, because I started to get way more active. My brain was working better because I was healthier. And you have no idea how much food has an impact on your brain function. So when you start eating healthy and you start losing weight and being active, you are just more productive. You are
Yep.
immediately more productive.
Yep.
You're
Yeah,
almost
totally agree.
describing like a practice too, right? So, you went to work on yourself and you had a coach, like a mentor kind of guide. You set a realistic goal. You didn't say, I'm going to, in 3 months, lose 100 pounds. And you had a direction that you liked and you incorporate that into your life and kind of like built discipline, right? Built structure.
Exactly. Well, this
And
is something that since the beginning, that's why in the book I talk about this, is to establish SMART goals. SMART means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So it needs to be specific. If you
yep.
just say, I want to lose weight, that means nothing. You have to say, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, that's very specific. You want to lose 10 pounds. So it is measurable because you can measure when you lose that 10 pounds. It is achievable. It is relevant for what you want to do. And it is time bound, because if you say, I want to lose 10 pounds, okay, that's a good goal, but what is the timeline? 1 month, 2 months. So you have to be specific with time. So that's why in the cybersecurity book, I also use the same approach for SMART goals. Because if it is not achievable, then it will be really hard for you to stay motivated. So you have to establish a goal that is achievable for you. I know that is quite common to people say, oh, if your goals doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. Well, I disagree a little bit with that, because I have scary goals, but I don't see as a goal. I see as a vision, because it's a long-term vision. Now, until I
Mm,
get to that vision, I have many goals that I'm going to accomplish. Because if you have multiple goals, you stay motivated because you see progress. As a human, we need to see progress to stay motivated. So if every quarter you have a goal and you in a vision for 1 year or 2 years, okay, how can I establish this plan so that I can achieve those mini goals every time and I can boost my motivation and keep moving forward? So that was the plan, right? And that's why it took 3 years, because the first year I lost 100 pounds, but I had a lot of losing skin. I didn't have muscle, so I have to build muscle. But it was 2 years working on that. So I knew there was different timelines for different goals.
yeah, and it definitely applies into cybersecurity, right? And I think in all aspects of our life, that's the beauty of your book. I feel like it hits on so many other aspects of just of life that sometimes we separate our career from our life, and it's important to think about it in totality, right? Like this is your health, this is your mind, your work life balance, and what you're passionate about. How do you grow and challenge yourself and learn? And you did a great
And,
job of that.
and that's why Jeff Bezos, he doesn't really like the word work-life balance. He says work-life harmony because he believes it's more like establishing a harmony among all the things, which is okay.
Yeah,
I like balance just because to me, balance is, if you have balance, you have harmony. I mean, balance to me means
it's true.
so many things that I like the word balance in this context.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And then there are some folks that are going to be listening to this too that may want to maybe have that entrepreneurial mind, like not just to act like you're an owner in a company, but actually eventually maybe start their own business. You talk about this too, and actually interviewed two fantastic leaders of businesses. Let's, as we kind of get towards the end of this, I want you to talk a little bit about
This is
chapter 10.
actually, this chapter, it was very important to me because when I was writing the book, I said, well, a lot of people that they are already doing cyber for a company. I've seen a lot of successful people just leave and establish their own company as a consultant and do their own thing, right? There is a space for everyone, basically. So I was like, I don't have that experience, but I know people that has this experience, excellent people. So I invited David Kennedy and Paula Janus to write a little bit of the chapter 10. Each one wrote their own story about how they established their company, and both are they own a cybersecurity company. So Paula is in Europe, David is in US. So they bring different perspectives, which is really good because she brings more a European perspective. And also speaker, she's a Microsoft MVP, so she also knows this realm of Microsoft security. Dave is more an open source guy, a hacker and everything, so he brings that as well. It was a great combination, and
Yeah.
they jump into the project right away. I just invited once, and they were super excited. So amazing people with very good insights that I'm not gonna give away. I'm gonna have to read that chapter. There's
Yes,
really
agreed.
good insights from both of them for sure.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts. And I'm going to get Ramin to read this part as well. He's excited about reading the book. He hadn't had a chance to read it, but I think that'll be helpful for you too, Ramin, because you've done that. Like you had a career and now you're starting your own business, like in your consulting.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're
Yeah, it's like
building a
he's
brand.
describing
And
my situation. So the book is,
yeah,
I told you yesterday, I ordered it. So I typically don't even read physical books. I usually wait when Audible comes. But you know what? I'm going to make an exception and definitely read it. So
Well,
excited. But
I'm glad you said that because Pearson actually is really working hard to make this book audible. They
oh,
want
that's
to, because
great.
I told them, look, Audible is the future for many people. For example,
Totally.
I buy Audible much more than physical book just because I can listen in my car. I can listen
Yep.
while I'm working out. So it really helps. So they are working on Audible version. I also receive a lot of requests from my Brazilian friends that they want a Portuguese version. So we are trying to make that happen.
cool.
We'll see.
That's great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head there, right? That's part of the practice. Like I can go to the gym and I can listen to a book. Sometimes I like music, sometimes I need that, but that's time where my body is working. But like my mind can work too, right? Like
Yeah.
that's when I'm
Exactly.
noticing I'm feeling good when I'm in the gym. I'm very receptive to kind of like ideas, different ways of thinking. And I always love doing the gym in like a sauna or something at the end because then good feeling chemicals in your brain. So I'm very receptive at that point. So
Yeah.
it's great picking those books, things that interest you and listening to them, putting that time and effort and investment in yourself.
This is the only moment where I believe multitask is healthy. If I'm doing a cardio session, then cardio, I'm not really concentrating in pump. I'm not looking at mind muscle connection because if I'm lifting weights, I don't like to listen
It's
audible
hard.
because I
Yeah,
need
I
to
agree.
concentrate to focus on that mind muscle connection to have a good pump and everything. But if I'm doing stairmaster, treadmill, bike, then it's fine because I can concentrate here while I'm doing my cardio, right? So even in those situations, you have to be mindful about that because I was talking to Jess the other day that one of the problems that we have nowadays is people multitasking. They think that they are doing multiple things, but they are doing a poor job in a lot of things, right? You gotta be fully present. And that's why time management and organization is so important because when you see people, for example, in meetings that they turn off their camera, it's almost certain that person is writing an email, is doing something else. And then when a question comes up and say, hey, what is your opinion on this? Oh, can you repeat the question, please? Oh, okay, you were multitasking. Thank you very much, right? So don't multitask. It's not good. You think you are lying to yourself, right? Be 100% present.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. Yeah, the next question is, how do you get your book, Yuri? Where do people get your book?
Well, the easiest place is definitely Amazon, or you can go to informit.com, which is owned by Pearson. But Amazon is where you're going to find not only the ebook, but the physical book as well.
Yeah. And I think with all the diagrams, I would really, like, even if there is an Audible version, what you might want to do is get both, because the links and all the things that are
There's
in
a lot
here,
of tables
you're not
too.
going to
There's
be
a lot
able
of
to,
tables.
a lot of
There's a lot of
tables and
whiteboard
charts.
where you're penciling things or whiteboarding things out, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
there
think
is.
that the physical book is good, but I agree with Jesse. If you get both, you're gonna have a better experience.
Yeah, it'll reinforce your learning. These charts, the way because you write it almost in some ways similar to like how you would look at a textbook, and you can't audible a textbook. Like, you really need to be looking at it, because there's just so much that helps when you're visually consuming content, and like you said, being present when you're doing it. But yeah, highly recommend this book. Yuri, this was just fantastic. I really enjoyed just talking with you about this. And this is such a great topic. And I really hope that your book can really kind of help to fill this gap that we're all seeing of the next generation, right? Like, this hits on so many different levels and can go worldwide. So I'm really excited to see how this book impacts the future generation coming in, as well as those that are already in the field that maybe feel stuck and they want to just get a new mindset on how to progress in their career. Maybe they haven't thought the way you think about setting very specific goals and having the right mindset and understanding how to take care of mind, body, and work, right? Like, all of those things together, that's where this book really hits on all of it. So very excited to see where
at
this
the end of the
goes.
day, it's all about make sure that the book helps people. And I said that I had a post on my LinkedIn today where I mentioned that it's really about empowering others to do more and helping others to achieve. That was the main reason I became a manager, because I wanted to help people to grow. I didn't have this intention, but then I started working as a tech lead for the team, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm helping other people to grow. So why not now getting officially a manager position where I can even have a bigger impact and promote people? I can push them to do more. So that's my mission.
Love it.
I think even if you're not an expert in security and you're curious, you paint a pretty good picture. Because I know there's still people that are in other careers that are more curious, especially as people are affected by layoffs, things like that. But could be opportunities if you want to change a path. But this is also a good book. Like, I feel like the examples we went through are very relatable even to someone like myself that's been in the industry for 20 years. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing and where am I going, and trying to be intentional. Very relatable at different levels too. And I love the human connection to it. Right? You really connect
thank you
with
very
people
much,
in
y'all,
your example.
for this episode dedicated for the book. I truly appreciate the support. Congratulations for the work that both of you are doing. I think we need more podcasts like this, focus on the different aspects of cyber. And Jesse, you are on this field for so long with your company that I think you're going to add a lot of value in future episodes, bringing the voices for the audience.
Yeah, that's the goal. We want to secure the future together. And I think the more we can get great information out to the public and then our audiences, it's just going to continue to contribute a little bit to that change.
Yep.
So, yeah, thank you again, Yuri. It's great having you. Enjoy your Metallica concert tonight. Rock on, man.
It makes it even cooler.
I know. He's just too cool. We really appreciate it.
Very cool guy. And he has a pool and he works out, like, very relatable. We just got to get him a V-neck shirt too.
Nice, that's right.
Next, if we bring you back on, then you're gonna have to wear a V-neck. This is the thing.
We're gonna ship one to you. Don't worry.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Securing the Future podcast with your hosts, Jesse Metters and Ramin Lemay. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit subscribe and leave a rating.